I am Gaetano, so I'm a representative for the production company Tanino Films. I am a director, screenwriter, and producer. So I'm from Italy myself, but I developed and I studied and worked abroad, specifically in London and the UK. I worked alongside BBC productions. I work alongside smaller, bigger videos, bigger productions. And at the moment, I am actually in between Rome and Madrid myself. So I consider myself quite European in that way. And a couple of years ago, I developed a documentary which wanted to contextualize and talk about the state of the European Union seen from the ones that will shape the future of the EU, and therefore young people. So we interviewed people between, well, between 20 and 27-year-olds about what was their idea of the future of the European Union and how they could help in shaping it. So I developed myself, as I said, I am a European director. I'm happy to call myself that. And over the last couple of years, me and a partner opened this production company called Tanino Films, with which we produce documentaries, music videos, fashion films, fashion shows, anything audiovisual that you can imagine, to be honest. Because what I found particularly interesting as well as a director and as a writer is to work on a variety of different projects, on a variety of different formats, and a variety of different genres. Because while sometimes a genre and a format could sound limiting, it is actually extremely freeing from a creative point of view, because we can play with those limitations, work around that, push those limits, and create something that is truly and essentially unique and original. So what I wanted to do today is, of course, the process of filmmaking, the process of video making is composed of different sections, and of course, and most of all, the production section, when everyone is together and everyone is producing, everyone is actually helping out in order to make the shooting happen. However, I wanted to start a bit earlier because I think we are in the first phase of this, even before the script. So I wanted to start from the idea on how to write a story. So I just wanted to give you like a couple of slides, not even very time consuming, just some tips, as Enrico was mentioning, about how to write a story, and most of all, how to start writing a story. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, very well.
Okay. Is it blocked by the bar from Zoom, or can you see everything?
Me personally, I can see everything.
Okay, so I think it was just on my end. So I wanted to start on how do we write a short story, and also what is a short story. I honestly recently browsing through Netflix, I came across this stand-up special from a New Zealand comedian called Hannah Gadsby. And I think that this quote is extremely important also for understanding the power of stories and the power of filmmaking in this sense. Because it is true that what are short films? What are films ultimately? They're stories, and stories of different people that we don't know, of experiences that are not ours, meaning as an audience, can help us understand the other people, can help us also talk to each other and progress in that sense. So the idea that our cure is in stories, not in laughter, not in speech, not in arguments, not in, let's say, not in shouting, to me, it's extremely empowering. And it's extremely interesting to look at it, to look at stories from this point of view, to look at stories as an opportunity to get to know someone else, an opportunity to talk, basically. So ultimately, what is a short story? So a short story is a narrative, And ultimately, like the Americans would say, they would have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Today, as the Americans would say, because they are the current, let's say, holder of films, at least of the pop culture of films. But of course, this idea of story dates back all the way to Greek tragedies and to the basic principles of stories that were started way before movies were ever invented. So of course, when we are writing a story, whether it's for a film, whether it's for a TV show, or even if it's just for a 1-minute advertisement, we are aiming to provoke emotions, convey a message, or provide entertainment. But everything throughout a story has to have some kind of rhythm, some kind of build-up. So beginning, middle, and then end. Like any good fable, any good short story in that sense. But first of all, I think, and this is particularly important to talk about now, because we are in that beginning process, which I think that the idea of brainstorming is extremely important when approaching the page, actually. Even before opening a notebook, it is important to brainstorm, especially when you have the opportunity to do it with other people. It's interesting and it's useful when doing it on your own. And a good practice that I've had over the years is, of course, writing things down on a notebook, but also putting everything, all the ideas that you can come up on a big whiteboard. And in that sense, then you can bounce back with those ideas and go forward in order to build a story. But I think what's most important about brainstorming is a dialogue between people. And the fact that via brainstorming, we can basically draw inspiration from our experience, observation, and imagination in order to create a story and a narrative is one of the essential parts about writing anything in that sense. Because the idea that we can, and this I would probably suggest for anyone in the future to do, especially since we're all working in groups or working of groups of, correct me if I'm wrong, Enrico, but it's between 6 people, right? A bit more than 6 people?
Yes.
Correct. So I am myself a writer-director, and sometimes we get this idea that the writer-director sits in a dark room, writes everything on a computer at 3 a.m. at night, and then just because they're a genius, they come up with an incredible short story, an incredible movie, an incredible book, or whatever. But ultimately, I don't firmly believe in this. And it is probably because, and I will show you later on, but the filmmaking process is so much more than just one person, that it kind of like led me to believe that even in the point of writing, it is extremely important to talk and discuss with other people. Because I might have an idea, I might have, for example, an experience, something that I have in my life that I want to share. However, that's my perspective, my small perspective in a sense. And it starts to grow when you have the opportunity to basically compare your idea, talk about it, discuss it with other people, and the idea that dialogue ultimately becomes essential for the writing process. And this brainstorming word, which is a very American word, very, let's say, American British word, kind of like sums all of this. Because there is no such thing as a bad idea. I think everyone has learned this. And in the brainstorming phase, there's no judgment. You can throw any kind of idea to the wall and then see how that can evolve. Maybe there's no room for progression. Maybe that story simply doesn't go in the direction that you want it to go. Then you just change and you go to another. And that's the beauty of having other people to whom work with, because you can have that back and forth. And going back to the idea that you're in a dark room writing by yourself, you don't have that. Most times you don't have that. And I myself, of course, write my own stories, and I tend to do it by myself. But what's important is then having other people chime in, read the story, tell you what they want, what they think the story is about, because that ultimately becomes extremely important. Because if I wrote a story by myself and then publish it by myself, I would assure you that it would be awful. Even in long form writing, the first draft, so the first time that you write something, and every screenwriter teacher that I've ever had, every director would always tell you this, is garbage. It needs to go through a process. It needs to evolve. It needs for other people to work, to look at it, and to tell you what they think. So in this sense, this is for a long format. But if it's a group of people working on one idea or on one, let's say, story, it becomes also much more fulfilling in that sense, because it gives you new perspective, because perhaps you have your perspective, but you get someone else's observation, someone else's point of view and imagination. Let me go forward. I think I will ultimately talk about this quite a bit, and we will get to what are the key questions in order to start building a story. But I think especially for this project, but for any kind of story, you need to have a clear idea of what is your story about. What are the themes of your story? What do you want to tell, basically? And I will get later on to it, but what do you want to say with your story? And here we go to the key questions that you should ask yourself when writing a story. Ultimately, we have this idea that writing a story, writing a book, writing a film script is a completely it is a completely imaginative process, but there's some structure to it. And specifically for screenwriting, which is, of course, something that has become even more structured through the Hollywood system, for example. And these are 5 of the questions that help you basically develop your story and start your story, because you might have a theme, but for example, you might want to talk about, I don't know, the European Union, for example, right? Which is, I'm using an example, a personal example that I've gone through. I want to talk about the question of the future of the European Union. That's kind of a theme. That's not my story. That's just a theme that it's there. And if I try to write a story about it, it won't come out, because it is just a theme. So in order to elaborate it as a story, I need to identify who are my main characters, who are the people that I am going to use in order to show their point of view, who are the people that are going to lead us through the story. And in that sense, what do they want? What are they looking for? Now, using an example, and we'll watch a brief trailer for it. I had this documentary about the European Union. My main characters were young people, because I wanted to talk about the future of the European Union. And now, what did they want? To have a future, for example. And then the following question, of course, is what obstacles will they face in achieving their goal? Because stories are built in a way on conflict as well, and understanding that it's a process. Everything it's a process, and everything it's a buildup. And therefore, how will the main characters overcome those obstacles? If you take any kind of movie, any kind of short film, any kind of video that you've ever seen, it would probably follow the structure. Even every fable followed this structure. And it ultimately, ending in what are the consequences, builds, once again, a three structured arc. So beginning, middle, and end. In the sense, who are the main characters of the story? What do they want? Is the beginning. Then what obstacles will they face is something that happens in, let's say, towards the end of the beginning that completely changes the story. How will the main character overcome those obstacles is the middle. And what are the consequences of their actions is the end. Therefore, a 3-act structure. Beginning, middle, and end.
Gaetano,
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting you. Just like very briefly, there are some participants waiting, and I guess you are the host. I don't know if you can let them in,
Sure.
because like it's super engaging what you're what you're saying. I guess like
Sorry, I just got lost.
no, I know. That's the power of storytelling. You know? Thank you.
No worries. But yeah, ultimately, just to sum it up, like how stories are built, again, just to repeat myself, but also for the people that have just joined, is in 3 acts. And that applies to every kind of story. Applies even to a 15-second story. And going back to that quote from Hannah Gadsby from the stand-up Nanette, she was talking, of course, from her point of view as a stand-up comedian. And she was saying that a joke is built on 2, basically, acts. The setup and the punchline. The opportunity the story gives you is to go past that. Is to basically give you another act, another section that can help basically inform, and at the same time that can give a sense of growth, and it can give a sense of progression of the story. And it ultimately becomes 3-dimensional. Now, I wanted to show you this. Ultimately, as I said, everything can be a story, no matter the length of the actual video. And I was going to use this example because I think this should be from a couple of years ago. So iPhone released their new phone with new cameras and everything, wanting to prove that everything and everyone can shoot. Now, I wanted to show you first. There. You don't see it, correct?
No, we cannot see.
Okay. Because it went out. Do you see it now?
Yes.
And what is definitely true, okay, let's first watch it and then I'll tell you. It is shot on an iPhone. So it is shot on something on a smartphone, and every basically camera that we have on our phone today can be used to shoot videos. I mean, we see that in social media, but we also see that, well, basically we see it everywhere around us, that we can use cameras from our phones in order to shoot something that is high quality, that is HD. Well, years ago, this was not possible. You needed to have a professional camera that was worth 50, 60,000 euros, and everything was much more complicated from that point of view. So I just wanted to put this, and then I'll show you the second video that I have, which I think ultimately helps us understanding what goes into not only writing, but also filmmaking. Now, cool, right? What was it? 1 minute and 27 seconds, beginning, middle, and end. This girl goes through this battle, this epic battle against what ultimately seems like it's her brother, with her friends fighting. So at the beginning, this idea of the battle is introduced, then they're starting to lose, they're losing more and more, and ultimately they reach a point where it seems like everything is lost, but no, the little girl was smart, she had hidden people behind the snow, and they win. So it was pretty famous, of course, as a commercial because it's Apple and everything. So of course it went everywhere. Plus it is shot from a very famous action director. So it came out perfect, right? Now, what iPhone is suggesting you here, Apple is suggesting you here, is that everyone can do that. And to an extent, it is true. However, I also wanted to show you the behind the scenes of this video.
I am David Leach, and welcome to our snowball fight. I was really excited about the idea because it is kind of like an underdog story. We have this young female protagonist who is in a snowball fight with her brother. Our girl at the beginning of this piece is like under fire, and you see her distressed, and we're in this sort of emotional state, like, is she going to make it? And we get to see our young group of underdogs rise up to the occasion and take down her brother and win the prize of the teddy bear. You don't need all the equipment I had on these big Hollywood movies to tell a great story. We're getting creative with the flexibility of the camera, how light they are, and how mobile they are. Things that are hard to simulate with big film cameras, we were able to make this classic kung fu composition very quickly and easily. It was fun. I could tell from the first shot where we had the backlight going through the smoke and she's running at 4K, 60 frames per second. And it was really beautiful and epic. And again, we were embracing the strengths of the camera. When you're planning an action scene, the most important thing is the character. In this piece, how does the choreography tell us a story about our protagonist? We had X amount of stuntmen, but we really needed young kids. So my stunt team trained them to be basically stunt performers, and that's been really fun. hopefully this piece can inspire filmmakers to take their advice out and be as creative as we were here.
Now, I always love watching behind the scenes because it gives you a lot of insight of what has happened, how they did it, and somehow you don't even realize how they did it until you get to that point. However, this behind the scenes to me is particularly ironic and funny in a way. Look how many people there are. They're saying that, of course, now we don't need all that film equipment. We don't need all of that. We have this camera that is super light and everything. But look at the amount of people. He was multiple times he was talking about all of our stunt team, or the way that they did the shots was like 4 people holding it, twisting it. So ultimately, where do I want to get with this? Is yes, anyone can ultimately make movies on their phone. However, it is a collaborative process. You need to have other people involved. And that's for filmmaking, but also for writing. Go back to this one. Because, and this is something that they were really adamant in teaching us when I was in film school, when I was even in screenwriting school. Film, video making, it's a collaborative effort. Everyone is working towards one common goal, which to me, it's very empowering, because no matter what you do, no matter what line you suggested, no matter whether you were the one coming up with the idea or the one helping out in the brainstorming process, you are part of something. And you're all working towards making a video. Telling a story, ultimately. Telling one point of view, trying to talk about something, trying to talk about a theme, talk about something that is pressing to you. I consider myself to be very passionate about filmmaking. Therefore, when I was coming up after film school, I was working for free for 10 hours, bringing coffees, doing nothing, just for the opportunity to collaborate with other people and be able to say, I worked on that, I helped. Whether it's suggesting a line, great, awesome, or whether it's bringing a coffee to, I don't know, the actor that in that point needed that specific thing. But yeah, going back to those 2 videos, working with other people is essential. The whole film industry is this. It's a collaborative project. It's a collaborative process. And you need to confront and talk to other people, basically, and work and build a team in that sense. Now, I wanted to show you like one of our examples, one of like something that I shot, the documentary that I was talking about before. And even because in this case, it's a 1.5 minute trailer. So I'm unfortunately, I can show a 50-minute documentary. However, I think that even in the trailer, there is an idea of structure. There is an idea of story and what do we want to tell? Because ultimately, I started this project now in 2019, so a long time ago. And I started this project because I was particularly fascinated and passionate about Ventotene, which is a small island in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, somewhere like 2-3 hours outside of the coast of Italy. But what fascinated me about this extremely tiny island is that it's a story, basically. Not so much its history, which of course it has an extreme, very important history, but a story that I felt extremely passionate about and that I needed to tell. I needed for other people to know. And that is in 1941, hundreds of people were confined on this island from the fascist regime because of their dangerous ideas. 3 of these people, up until like from 1930s up until 1943. But in 1941, 3 of these people that otherwise would have never met, because they were from different backgrounds, different cities, they met in this island because also there was not much else that they could do except for talking, listening, and writing, which ultimately are essential for filmmaking. What they did is that they talked to each other and they wrote a manifesto that turned out to be one of the founding documents of the European Union. So 3 people confined on an island at the peak of World War II, sorry, managed to look forward into the future and think of something that would unite people rather than divide them. For me, that's an incredible story. And that's something that needed to be told. Therefore, going back to the idea that stories hold a cure, stories can make us grow, stories can give us different perspectives and can inspire us in that sense. Now, I'm not claiming that my documentary is the best documentary in the world and that you're going to see an Oscar-winning trailer now. No, I'm not claiming any of that. However, I just wanted to show you what we did, basically, in brief.
Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita, mi ritrovai a Ventotene. In quegli anni, in quel luogo, nacque una seconda volta.
Era un luogo di segregazione e di isolamento, che invece è stato il luogo propulsivo di un'idea di Europa libera e unita.
C'est du plus petit au plus grand. Donc on part de quelques centaines d'habitants dans cette île, si on la prend même en 41-45, et on est à 560 millions d'Européens.
C'è un mondo che chiede di un'Europa più forte. E naturalmente lo sguardo deve essere rivolto ai giovani, perché saranno loro i protagonisti.
We are every country, we are a small plenary.
Se da quelle nascono movimenti che hanno massa consistente, massa sufficiente per incontrarsi e scontrarsi con le direzioni politiche, potrebbe anche da questo punto di vista avviarsi una stagione nuova per l'Europa.
I am convinced that Europe can shape this new world if it works together and rediscovers its pioneering spirit. And for this, I want to cite a sentence from the Ventotene Manifesto.
Oggi è il momento in cui bisogna saper gettare via vecchi fardelli, tenersi pronti al nuovo e sopraggiungere così diverso da tutto quello che si era immaginato.
Dear friends, this moment has arrived once again.
See where I lost my presentation. Let me just see. Yes. Basically, everything can be a story. And it can be 30 seconds, 1 minute, up to 3 hours. In this case, we're working with 5 to 10 minutes. And the idea is that it can be anything. It can be fictional, it can be a documentary, it can be, at this point, anything that you want it to be. The structure, the questions are always the same. They're always, the important things to remember are characters, themes, and message in a way. Because this, I'm taking a quote from an Italian movie called The Hand of God by one of my favorite directors, Paolo Sorrentino. Because the most important thing is say something. Doesn't matter what it is, but say something. Something that is passionate to you, something that you want to express, something that kind of like needs to come out. Because if you have that need, and if you want to do that, it means that you're actually telling a story. No matter the what the story is about, no matter how you develop it, the important is having that something inside to tell. And in order to tell that something, collaborate with other people in order for that something to grow into an idea and later on to grow into a story. Now, today I didn't want to go into specific details on how to write a script, what you need in order to write a script. I just wanted to give you a couple of tips, a couple of slides basically on how to start. Because at this point, we are in that process of coming up with ideas, brainstorming, where we shouldn't necessarily put limits to ourselves. Except for, of course, the short story kind of format. And then later on, things will evolve, things will grow, and everyone will work together in order to tell the specific story that you decided on and to, to say something, ultimately. I think, yes, this was my last slide. If you want to ask any questions, feel free to do so. I'm here for that. Sorry if I rambled maybe a bit too much, but I'm at your disposal. Thank you for the attention and for listening.
Great. Thank you, Gaetano. Yes, please, if you have any question, you can both use the raising hand option, or if you cannot find, yes, please open your microphone. I can see Stanley from the Netherlands. Yes. Okay, great.
Ciao. I have a question about the Snowball film and then the making of. They had like, how do you say that? Like a camera body around the iPhone. Do you know specifically which gear they are using for the iPhone?
Honestly, I cannot give you the exact make of it, but yet usually that's a rig. That's a cage and a rig. And what they do is that with that cage and rig, they just basically they build a structure around the camera. And that's not necessarily only for the iPhone, that also you can also do it for bigger cameras, and they do it for bigger cameras, and you can then mount it on something else. What they did is that they mounted it on a shield, right? The one that they throw. And yeah, that requires that the irony of that is that they make it look like it's extremely easy and that anyone can do it, and anyone can do it, anyone can find it. But you also need to plan everything way in advance so that that specific shield turns in that way and that it is controlled, because otherwise, if you just build a cage and you mount it on top of something, it doesn't always work.
Yeah, I can see, because like I also have like a rig for my phone, but it's like it's just made of plastic and it's not that sophisticated like that one.
Usually they have to be metal. There is a couple online that you can look at, and they're usually metal. They're usually like there's a couple of different brands that do it, I think.
Do you have a recommendation?
There's one, but I don't quite remember what it is.
Oh, okay.
There's but if you probably go on either generally on Amazon, you should be able to find it, like cage for phone.
Okay, yes, and I will
Cage
check it out.
for iPhone, cage for Samsung, or whatever.
Okay, Thank you very much.
No worries.
Great. Then we have Jelle. Jelle, sorry if I pronounce very bad your name.
That's all right. It's yellow.
Yellow. Great.
Well, first off, thank you for the presentation. It was very nice to hear you talk about film. I was wondering, since we will be responsible for the script as groups, and Tanino Films will be responsible for the production side of things, who's going to be responsible for the directorship?
In that case, I will help you with directing. So I will be directing. However, what I wanted to, it's good that you asked this question. So thank you for it, because of course, what's going to happen is not just that you're going to write the stories, you're going to be in them, and then it's out of your control or whatever. The idea is that everyone that is not, that won't be in front of the camera, will be behind the camera.
Yeah.
So everyone else will help me, help the crew in order to make this possible. Because of course, as you've seen in the behind the scenes of the Snowball, but probably that you can see any behind the scenes on Vimeo or YouTube. And in that, I actually suggest, if you want to watch any like very, very professional, high quality videos, Vimeo, browse videos. There's plenty of short films, commercials, fashion films, everything that you can think of at the highest possible quality. But anyways, this is to say that everyone's that won't be in front of the camera will be behind the camera, assisting me, assisting the operators, and assisting sound. So everyone will get an idea of how the filmmaking process works first, and second of all, will help in that part. Whether it's help out with the camera if possible, help me, help in other roles that later on will clarify a little bit, because a film crew can be 2 people, 3 people. It can be
exactly.
50. So everyone else will help out.
Do you mean with that basically when the complete group, so it will also contain actors or people who will act in our films, and that you will be the director, and other people from the from this VISYON project will be more like assistant director, or okay,
as well, but not only assistant director. Like there's a multitude of different roles that perhaps we can discuss later on. But there's assistant director, there's assistant director, there's assistant camera. There's so many different roles that we can maybe, like, once we have the group, the story and everything, we can try and understand who does what, who
because
is,
because you know the of course the story we will write as a group, but I think when we are going into production, then the aesthetic of the image, that has to be discussed.
What's going to happen, everything that happens on set is prepared before.
Yeah, exactly.
So we will have plans to know exactly what we're shooting, when we're shooting it. Then
And
there's
how.
always room for a little bit of improv, but
yeah, exactly.
Better to have everything settled down.
But
because we probably won't have massive time, and that on any shoot anywhere, every director will tell you we didn't have enough time. No one will tell you, no, we had plenty of time, like time to spare, and we went for coffee. No, that doesn't happen. So everything comes before it. So what probably will happen is that I will be there with you when we're prepping the film, and maybe I'll give my input on how to shoot the story, and perhaps we can talk and chat about.
Okay, so I understand that we will have well, in the future we will have meetings about not only the story itself, but also in the form of a video.
Yeah, on how we're going
yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you.
No worries. Thank you for your question.
Yes, before giving the floor to Stefano, who raised his hand, yes, let me clarify that today is just the first meeting, and it was, yes, imagine, in order to give you some first, yes, information, some tips, some, yes, also to start the creative process. I know that you, each group at local level is working on different topics. Someone already had the European Youth Goals, yes, working. Someone, I don't know, maybe someone also already did the storytelling workshop. So having this meeting today is just to include an additional element in this phase in order to help you to already begin to organize all your ideas, because you already know which the topics on which we will create the videos are. Probably we didn't, no, probably, surely we didn't decided or we didn't divided these topics among the groups yet, but it is something that we are going to do. So having this first workshop with Gaetano today is in order to help us to enter in this creative mood. A little spoiler, we will have another workshop with Gaetano probably between September, October, where you will receive some more detailed information about the script, how the script is organized, because we have to, as Yella was saying, we have also to prepare not only the idea and the story, but also the background, where the characters will be during the story. We need to understand that yes, we will not have so much time, so we have to limit also to move around the different locations. So Gaetano will explain us perfectly all these things. Now you have just to start the creative process. Yes, Stefano.
Okay, sorry. Thanks, Gaetano. It was quite nice, though my internet connection was not really stable. So if you could like share with us the video that you made about
Sure.
you know, like
I'll send you the
like via email. I don't know. We can figure it out if anyone is interested.
I can put it in the chat now, perhaps.
Okay, that could be great. No, actually, mine was more like of a curiosity, like because it's not technical yet, as Enrico was saying. But so, would you find it like? Would you say that, in your opinion, it's more difficult the creative script writing process, or to actually deliver the message to the people that will have to record it afterwards? Because, you know, like when you write something, you might have one idea, and then when you put it into practice, can be totally different. Now, while working in the non-formal education, like for like some youth organizations, you know that you start the process and then you let the participants develop the things. You know, like it's very nice to see the final outcome. I guess it's a bit different in the part of like recording, directing, and everything. So, what would you say it's like the most difficult aspect of it?
Look, honestly, like
And the funny one. Sorry.
No, don't worry. Like the most important thing is always a story. Like some people, of course, the story might change, and if then you have a story, and then how to adapt it to the screen becomes a different challenge. But and a lot of people will tell you like, no, the script is just a blueprint and everything changes. Yeah, but it starts from the script. It starts from the page. So, and the important thing is always not only having a theme, but understanding how we can create a story from that theme. Because the most typical theme ever in Hollywood is revenge, right? Every movie is about revenge or whatever. But It's how you tell that story, redemption, the underdog, the redemption, and all that. It's how you tell that story. Ultimately, if you look at that Snowball commercial, their theme is what? Family, holiday vacations, family, brotherhood, in that sense. How do they develop it? In a simple snow fight. And there they build everything else. So then the aspect of filmmaking, so putting the page on screen and recording it, is sometimes can be extremely painful, extremely stressful, and you can lose your mind doing it, depending on the project. That's why you need to be very calm when you're doing it and rely on other people, but you can make it work. Even the most insane thing that you can ever think of that they do in movies, you can do if you have money as well. But with planning and being creative, you can do. But it needs to start from, if the idea is not developed well, if the characters don't really know what they're doing, they just are there, it's not really a story, no one can make that work. I can't, and I'm quite, I'm not as big of a director as many others, but not even Spielberg can make a script work that is not there.
So it's trust, patience, and a lot of money, apparently. I mean,
Aside from
ultimately,
money, if you don't have money, you need to be creative.
no, of course.
If you only have an iPhone and you only can shoot on an iPhone, and you don't have the cage, the metal cage, you put plastic around it, you just, I don't know, like make it so that it won't fall. If you don't have a dolly, you have a cart. That's something that we always used in uni, a cart of the shopping cart, in order to make its shot look steady and like as if it was very professional. It didn't always work. A lot of times it didn't, but that's a learning process.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the spot of iPhone, yeah, very beautiful, but it's kind of fake news, like after you see all the behind the scene and how many people that were there and everything. I mean, it's a bit of an illusion, but still like a very nice result. Anyway, I thank you. It's like very nice to
Right.
hear
Thank
the
you for
personal
that.
experience.
Definitely.
And then we will get to a little bit more into deep later, but not today.
Yes, even because we already finished our time for today. I don't know if we have just last question. We managed also to recover the first minutes we lost for technical issues. Otherwise, let me thank you again, Gaetano, and all of you for your participation. I'm pretty sure that you will realize very beautiful script, but also they will become very beautiful videos. Good luck with your local activities, and what to say, keep in touch, because as I told you, we will organize additional moments like this. So have a nice day to all of you.
Same from me.
Bye.
Thank you for the
Bye-bye.
attention.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.